I decided to visit the largest forest in my county to unwind and reconnect with nature. Seeking a quiet place away from the usual trails, I asked the local forestry office for a good spot. They pointed me to a nice area a bit down the road. With no phone reception and a rare patch of blue sky in the UK, I embraced the spontaneous trip. Walking along the path, I noticed a clear area to my right. Wanting to get closer to nature, I went off the main trail into the trees. It was a pleasant experience. I explored, listened to birds, and even took a short 5-minute break for meditation. However, the tranquility was interrupted by what sounded like two animals fighting, probably foxes. Coming out of the trees, I found myself on a sandy road. While walking along it, I noticed a bra hanging from a bush near the road. People use the forest for various reasons, but this find made me a bit uneasy. As I turned around, I heard an electric car approaching. In a moment, it was less than 300 yards away. Unsure of what to do, I gave a nod as it passed and decided to go in the opposite direction. The car parked out of sight behind me. I started walking off the road to explore more, but got a weird feeling when I saw the car do a 180-degree turn and park again. Something urged me to turn around and go back. As I returned to the road, I saw a man in a white shirt behind the bush with the bra, heading in the direction I had initially changed course from. Crossing the road, I went back into the forest. Checking if the man continued in the opposite direction, I noticed he had also crossed the road, following my path into the woods. Realizing I was being followed, I kept up a brisk pace rather than running, considering my physical limitations. As I moved further, he stayed on my tail. Getting to the end of that section of the forest, just before a path with a large patch of grass and shrubbery, I looked back but couldn't see him. I stopped longer than I should have, scanning the trees and listening carefully, but there was no sign of him. Feeling some relief, I went back onto the path and turned one last time to check the tree line. To my surprise, he wasn't there. Considering I might have been overthinking, I hesitated. Just as those thoughts crossed my mind, I saw the man emerge from the opposite side of the tree line. He stared at me. Not wanting to take any more chances, I quickly made my way down the path back to my car. I reported the man to the forestry office, but there wasn't much they could do. That was the end of it. When I paused at the tree line and couldn't see him, I realized he must have approached from another angle. I wasn't checking that side. I'm glad I didn't venture further into the forest, listening to my instincts. Otherwise, the only way back would have been through him, and who knows what his intentions were. In 2016, at 31 years old, I bought my first house. It was a big deal, especially after ending a rocky on and off relationship that lasted 5 years. The house, a small 2-bedroom place from 1950, got some updates, like a dirt crawl space for storage and a good-sized fenced yard with 3 gates. A metal one, a small entrance to the front door, and an old wooden gate to a covered garage-like area. Working as a nursing assistant meant I often did night shifts. Early on, some weird stuff started happening. After one night shift, I came home to find store-bought apples scattered across my front yard. They weren't from a tree, just placed there with stickers tossed around. Tired, I figured it was probably just kids messing around. A few weeks later, after another night shift, I found beverage cans arranged in a circle around my fire pit. I had a house sitter over the weekend while I was away, and they had friends over. I thought it was just neighborhood kids being playful. More time passed, and after returning from a night shift, I saw all 3 of my gates wide open. They were closed and latched when I left. Feeling a bit uneasy, I was tired, so I told myself not to get freaked out over kids being annoying and went to sleep. On a weekend off, I went to the movies with my cousin. Before leaving, I locked my dog inside, locked the door, and left the porch light on since it would be dark when I got back home. When I returned, though, my dog was outside. The door was unlocked and the porch light was off. The switch for the light is inside, and this time, I was really creeped out. I called my dad to check the house, thinking someone might be inside or in the crawl space, but he found nothing. To feel safer, I decided to get a roommate. a guy from work. I thought having a big guy around might make whoever was messing with me think twice. I was wrong. One night, when my roommate was working a night shift, I fell asleep on the couch watching a movie. I woke up to a missed call from an unknown number. Trying to call it back didn't work, and moments later, I got a text asking about the movie. Investigation revealed the number came from an app allowing anonymous calls or texts. Feeling super creeped out, I rushed to my window, closed the blinds, and locked the door. They persisted, claiming to see me and urging me to come outside. To my horror, they identified themselves as Corey, a name I didn't know. Ignoring the texts eventually brought relief and the weird messages stopped. I waited until my roommate got home before feeling safe enough to sleep. Nothing like that happened again, and I still live in the same house with my now husband. There's been no explanation for any of it, and I'm open to hearing what others think about this weird chapter in my life. It was the summer of my 18th year when I worked as a camp counselor in training. We were a group of 5, young and eager to explore the wilderness. One day we decided to go on a camping trip deep into the forest. The forest was a place of mystery and adventure. As we were hiking, we encountered a man on the trail. He was an older gentleman with a weathered face and a strange gleam in his eyes. His clothes were worn and faded as if they had seen many seasons. He warned us to be careful, his voice echoing in the silence of the woods. His words were cryptic, but there was a seriousness in his tone that gave us pause. We shrugged it off, attributing it to the ramblings of a local, but his words lingered in the back of our minds. We continued our journey, the excitement of the trip overshadowing the strange encounter. We set up camp near a small clearing, the trees towering above us like silent guardians. The air was filled with the smell of pine and damp earth. As the sun set, we gathered around the campfire. The fire crackled and danced. We shared stories and jokes, the sound of our laughter echoing in the quiet forest. The air was filled with the smell of roasting marshmallows and the faint scent of beer and smoke. As the night grew darker, the sounds of the forest seemed to grow louder. The rustling of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the mysterious sounds of the night. I remember feeling a sense of unease, a feeling that we were not alone, but I brushed it off, attributing it to the alcohol and the ghost stories we were sharing. After all, we were in the middle of the forest, a place teeming with life. It was only natural to feel a little on edge. As the night wore on, we retreated to our tents, the exhaustion of the day catching up with us. The forest was quiet, the only sound the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. I drifted off to sleep, the events of the day replaying in my mind. In the middle of the night, I woke up to a rustling sound in our tent. My heart pounded in my chest as I squinted in the darkness, trying to make out the figure. I assumed it was Jordan, one of the other counselors, probably looking for his hoodie. I mumbled a sleepy goodnight and drifted back to sleep. A few moments later, I was jolted awake by Jordan's voice. He was outside asking if anyone had seen his hoodie. A cold dread washed over me as I realized that the person in our tent was not Jordan. I scrambled out of the tent, my heart pounding in my chest. The stranger in our tent bolted, disappearing into the darkness of the forest. We were left in shock, our laughter from earlier replaced by a heavy silence. We immediately contacted the police, who arrived at the scene but were unable to locate the intruder. They took our statements and promised to patrol the area, but there was little else they could do. We spent the rest of the night huddled together, our sense of security shattered. The next morning, we found Jordan's missing hoodie. It was tied to a tree near our campsite. The sight of it sent a shiver down my spine. The identity of the intruder remained a mystery, leaving us with a sense of unease that lingered long after the camping trip ended. That experience has stayed with me, a haunting memory of the summer I spent as a camp counselor.